So let's discuss this then with Helen Lau. She is from Argonaut Securities. She joins us right now on the phone line, as well as Hongmei Li, the head of content of Mysteel Global. Good evening, ladies. Thanks so much for joining in on ET Now. Hongmei, I'm going to come to you first. How would you read into this development that has come in with respect to iron ore supply waning? I mean, do you think it's perhaps a bit too soon to call it the beginning of the end of the supply worries for iron ore?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I find it a very interesting week this week because on a daily basis, we have been following up the development, especially from Vale. And then towards the end of this week, we have the Port Hedland, and then Dampier as well is closing up because of the cyclone. To answer your question, whether it's the end, to be frank with you, we don't know yet because you know, for the week, actually, it's mixed with good and bad news. Sometimes you're kind of seeing that it seems the supply will be easing, but at the same time, you know, some other mines will be affected. So it's very interesting market situation. But what I can tell you is that definitely the market sentiment has been played up and down all the way throughout the week.
Yeah, that you said it right. I mean, on one hand, you did have Vale trying to recuperate, and then there was a cyclone that did play havoc. Helen, I'm going to, throw the same question to you. Do you think that this is more or less of a sentiment move and that it's too early? I mean, do you think that the Brazilian authorities are actually going to let it go so easy for Vale that they can simply resume operations at the 30 million ton iron ore mine?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit, you know, it is a little bit too early, and but then the court do has their own reason because they certainly you know have you know investigated that mine, and so if they decided you know that it can resume, so they probably have you know a strong base you know to for the valley to restart. Yeah, so but then whatever it is now the valley can restart it soon, and so that's why I think this eventually will have some negative impact on the iron ore prices over short term.
Okay, Hongmei, I'm going to ask you about steel prices. You know, it's the end of the environmental restriction season, as I call it, and you know, steel mills are really taking advantage of that. I mean, mills have been continuously increasing production, slowly and steadily, although of course do note. How do you see the entire supply situation of steel in China?
Okay, Mysteel, actually, we have the weekly tracking of the capacity utilization rate among, you know, China's 247 steel mills. And then we do see the trend that the capacity utilization of their blast furnaces have been on the rise. But we did a comparison between now as well as before the winter restriction kick in. And then we can tell that there is still a few percentage point difference. So yes, to answer your question, it's on the rise, but then is the time to worry about the supply will really flashing into the market? I think it's too early to say. But yes, you're right. Winter restriction will be coming to an end officially by the end of March. But having said so, you can tell I'm a bit hesitating because last year I noticed there was a pattern from the Chinese government. Instead of just focusing on the winter, actually whenever they got the need, whenever the air quality was not so good, they were just kicking the emergency measures. So I believe like for the rest of this year, the supply will still be on the bumpy road in China.
All right. And Helen, do you think that with mills restarting output and steel once again coming back in production, do you think that steel prices could perhaps compress a bit going from here on?
Right, sure. And so far the situation is that it seems that the underlying demand in China is still quite healthy, and especially a lot of the data that China announced in the past few weeks shows that, the fixed asset investment is accelerating, and especially investment in infrastructure sector has picked up, and also investment in the property sector is, the growth is getting stronger. Of course, there's some number that is not very good, right? But overall, it is still satisfactory, and especially if you look at the evacuator production, that is the machines that is used in projects. It's jumped by 52% in the first 2 months of this year. It shows that. It shows that there's a lot of new projects just started. That's confirmed that China really has this support for the infrastructure projects. So it seems that the underlying demand is it is okay. It is sort of solid, and at the same time the steel production is also it has also picked it up. It's kind of strong. It is mainly because it seems that the steel mills still enjoy a good profitability so far, and so that is another reason to support the iron ore prices, because if China continue to produce a lot of steel, of course they will need a lot of iron ore, right? And so on that front, that is a good support for iron ore prices. But then when you have this supply surprise, like what happened in Brazil, then suddenly markets start to worry about the supply deficit in the iron ore.
Okay. All right. Hongmei as well as Helen, we would have loved to chat more about this, but unfortunately we're out of time. So appreciate both of you joining in on ET Now and giving us your sense of the developments in Brazil, around steel and iron ore. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up on this edition of the show. Thanks for watching.